Most horror movies are fiction, but one of the most terrifying stories ever told was completely real. His name was Ed Gein. To most people, he seemed quiet, polite, and harmless. But behind that ordinary appearance was a story that would shock the world. Ed grew up on an isolated farm, far away from society. His mother believed the outside world was evil and dangerous, and those beliefs would shape the rest of his life. Ed's mother, Augusta, was the most important person in his life. She constantly warned him that the world was filled with sin, corruption, and evil. Over time, Ed began to believe her completely. Everything changed when his mother died. Friends later said it was as if the last connection to reality had disappeared. After Augusta died, everything changed. Ed stopped interacting with the outside world and spent most of his time alone inside the farmhouse. As the years passed, the property became increasingly isolated, and neighbors rarely saw him. Over time, neighbors began noticing strange behavior. Ed rarely spoke to anyone, and rumors slowly started spreading throughout the town. In November 1957, a local store owner named Bernice Worden was working alone at her hardware store. It seemed like an ordinary day, but by the end of the day, Bernice had disappeared. Her store was empty, and investigators immediately launched a search. As investigators searched for clues, one name quickly appeared on their list. Ed Gein had been one of the last known customers seen near the store. Investigators followed the evidence to a remote property on the outskirts of town. The farm belonged to a quiet man named Ed Gein. When officers arrived, the property appeared quiet. Nothing seemed unusual from the outside. But as they got closer, officers noticed something unsettling. The house felt abandoned, yet someone had clearly been living there. Officers cautiously approached the entrance. They were searching for clues about a missing woman, but what they were about to find was far beyond anything they expected. The house was dark, cluttered, and strangely quiet. Every room seemed frozen in time. As investigators moved deeper into the house, they realized this was no ordinary crime scene. The farmhouse was hiding secrets that would soon shock the entire nation. Then everything changed. Investigators suddenly realized they were standing inside one of the most disturbing crime scenes in American history. The deeper they searched, the more evidence they uncovered. What began as a missing person investigation was quickly becoming something much larger. News of the discovery spread rapidly across the country. Newspapers called it one of the most shocking criminal investigations America had ever seen. People across the country struggled to understand how someone who appeared so ordinary could be connected to such a disturbing case. As investigators pieced together the evidence, all signs pointed to one man, Ed Gein. Gein was taken into custody and brought in for questioning. What happened next surprised investigators. During questioning, Gein calmly described events that helped investigators understand the full scope of the case. Within days, the case became national news. Reporters from across the country arrived to cover what many called one of the most disturbing criminal investigations in American history. As the case moved toward trial, the public expected answers. But the legal process would take an unexpected turn. Mental health experts spent months evaluating Gein's psychological condition to determine whether he was fit to stand trial. Doctors concluded that Gein suffered from severe mental illness. The court ruled that he would spend years in a psychiatric institution rather than a traditional prison. Even after the trial ended, the story refused to disappear. Decades later, people were still talking about Ed Gein and the disturbing mysteries surrounding his life. But Ed Gein's story didn't end in Wisconsin. Hollywood writers soon became fascinated by the bizarre details of the case. In 1960, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho introduced audiences to Norman Bates, a character partially inspired by aspects of Gein's life. Years later, the Texas Chain Saw Massacre introduced Leatherface, another fictional character influenced by details connected to the Gein case. Even The Silence of the Lambs borrowed elements from the story, helping transform a real criminal case into one of the most influential sources of horror fiction ever created. Ed Gein committed only a few confirmed murders, yet his crimes became the foundation for some of the most terrifying characters in movie history. Decades later, his story continues to haunt popular culture.